Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. First of all, I offer my Sastam and the lotus feet of our most worshipful Gurudev, Nitya-lila, Pravista Om, Vishnuvad, Krishna Bhaktivedanta, Narayan Goswami, Shri Guru Maharaj, Vajupana Vishwaga, and all the Sangro, Vaishnavas, and Vaishnavas. So, we continue our daily reading. Our daily reading of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So these are little doses of nectar from the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Our Bhaktivedanta Thakur is giving this gift for all of us. So you remember what we have read yesterday? Yeah, now we are in that section of the teachings in summary. So there's three divisions, right? What are they? Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojan. And that's clear. So when we talk about Sambandha, it deals with relationship. And it has how many things there? Seven teachings there. Remember? What are they? 3 about Krishna, 3 about the Jivas, and 1 about Achintya Veda Veda. So that's easy to remember. Then 7, then what else? 1 about Abhideya and 1 about Prayojan. So what is Abhideya? It's everything about Bhakti. Abhideya means activities, right? So that's Bhakti. And the last one, Prayojan, is Krishna Prem. So that means 7 plus 2, that's 9. But we say there's 10. The very first one is the teachings on evidence, the Praman. So based on the Praman, then these 9 teachings are there. That's easy to follow, no? And what is our Praman? Oh, what's our Praman? No, what is our Praman? What is our evidence? What is our proof? Yeah, our Praman is the teachings of the Vedas handed down by disciplic succession. It has to be properly described, because we can also say anyone can also resist the Vedas, right? So the teachings of the Vedas handed down by the bona fide disciplic succession. This is called Amnaya. So that is our Praman. So now we continue. I think the last point that we read yesterday was about the Jivas having here. He said 3 types of spiritual aspirants, and based on them they have different realization of the absolute truth. Because it said accordingly to your level, then you realize an aspect of the absolute truth. Then there are 3 aspects of the absolute truth. Do you remember? There's Brahma, Paramatma, Bhagavan. Who can realize Brahma? The Jnanis. And Paramatma, they are realized by the yogis. And Bhagavan, by the actual devotees. And this will be more discussed now, and the rest of the books as well. Okay, we continue now. So Bhaktivedanta Thakur, he says, Bhagavan, who is seen by practicing Bhakti Yoga. Okay, those who practice Bhakti Yoga, they will see Bhagavan. So when you say Bhagavan, Bhagavan refers to none other than Sri Krishna. Bhaktivinoda Thakur he just directly telling. Bhagavan refers to none other than Sri Krishna. We should know that those who accept Sri Krishna as an ordinary human being and sense enjoyer and thus neglect him have very little or knowledge of Tattva. Do you understand this statement? Like, he's saying those who accept Krishna as an ordinary human being and a sense enjoyer. So, are there people like that? Are there people like that? Some people maybe, like they have no. Also, like many people, they don't know who's Krishna, and when they see all these stories, they not only think he's like an ordinary person, they actually don't believe at all. They say, "Oh, this is like me," But there are some that they believe that there's really Krishna, like that. But he's an enjoyer. Look, he's dancing with many girls like this. So he said they see him as an ordinary person, just like anyone. He has a material body, and a sense enjoyer, and therefore they neglect him. So that means, he said, Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, they have no knowledge of him, of his real position as the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, Swayam Bhagavan. There is abundant evidence regarding this point in Srimad Bhagavatam and other scriptures. Okay, and this is our main evidence. See, our main evidence is the Vedas. What does the Vedas, especially the essence of the Vedas, the conclusion of the Vedas, that is Srimad Bhagavatam. What does it say as far as like the proof that Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead? One time Gurudev asked me this question also. I was in his room. I said, hey, quickly, give me evidence Krishna is the original Supreme Person like this. And I was like, that was very good. Then immediately Gurudev taught me this verse. So now remember this verse. This is a very important verse in Srimad Bhagavatam. Ite chamsa kala pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indari Vyakulam Lokam Mritayanti Yuge Yuge. And they translate here, it says, many of the various incarnations I have described are swamsas, or personal expansions, in the form of Purusha avatars, Shaktivish avatars, or expansions of other expansions. Sri Krishna, however, is the origin of all incarnations, and thus he is Swayam Bhagavan. One should always remember this point. He appears in every yuga to protect the world from the pain caused by the demons. Okay, so in this verse directly, Bhagavatam is telling. Because in Bhagavatam you will find all these different, leelas, many different incarnations there. So after describing all these different incarnations, like from 1 to 9, some Krishna Leela may be mentioned like this. But 1 to 9, all different stories of different avatars of Krishna. You will find all those. But then you will see that after telling all these different avatars, then he's concluding that, they are just, all these different incarnations, they are just swamsa, like direct manifestation of Krishna as the different avatars. But the original Swayam Bhagavan is Krishna. Also, then he's quoting from Brahma Samhita. And this Brahma Samhita, we know this is by Lord Brahma. So, actually the Brahma Samhita we have, this is not the complete Brahma Samhita. We only have the 5th chapter actually. We don't know what's in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or the rest of the book. But this 5th chapter of Brahma Samhita, that's the only remaining of that whole thing. Mahaprabhu was the one who got that and distributed. When Mahaprabhu went to South India, he heard how they were reading this. And Mahaprabhu was like, no, I want a copy of this. So Mahaprabhu himself. So Mahaprabhu himself did his book distribution also. So he's like getting this and making copy and distributing the devotees. So two books actually Mahaprabhu took. This Brahma Samhita and, you remember the other one? KrishnaKarunyaprabhu. So in Brahma Samhita, then this is another evidence that we can use. It says, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sanchit Ananda Vigraha Nadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. So I think you know these verses. You know these verses? We should memorize. Actually, right now, easily you can memorize. Yeah, you know already Krishna. So he said, Ishvara Parama Krishna. Supreme Ishvara. Ishvara means controller. No. Supreme controller. Who? Krishna. So, Ishvara Parama Krishna. That's easy to remember. Ishvara Parama Krishna. Then, what is he? He is the Vigraha of Satchit Ananda. So, Satchit Ananda Vigraha. Vigraha means what? The embodiment. Embodiment of Satchit Ananda. So that's easy to remember also. If you just understand the meaning, you can easily remember. Two parts there. You know. Ishvara Parama Krishna. Right? That's easy. Krishna is the supreme, supreme God, or supreme controller. Ishvara. And he's the embodiment of Satchit Ananda. So you can say, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchit Ananda Vigraha. You memorized already. And there he said, Anadir Adir Govinda. Anadir Adir Govinda. So Adi means origin. So here he translates that actually it said Anadir. He has no beginning. There's no origin to him because he is the origin. So that's why it's Anadir. Anadir Adir. He has no beginning or origin. But he is the source of everything. So he said, that's why he said he has no beginning or origin. Anadir Adir, his name is Govinda. Anadir Adir Govinda, Sarva Karana Karanam, the cause of all causes. The Karan of Sarva Karan. Sarva means all. Karan means cause. So Sarva Karan means all causes. And he is the Karan of all the Karan. So that's what Sarva Karana Karanam. So that's also easy to remember, no? Like, look, in this verse, Krishna is in the middle in the first line. In the second line, Govinda. So there's only two names there that you need to remember, Krishna and Govinda, referring to the same person. And the first line is what? He is the Parama Ishvara. No? Ishvara Parama Krishna. Satchit Ananda Vigraha. Embodiment of Satchit Ananda. Okay, you memorize that already. The next one, Anadir Adir. So just think, he has no beginning because he's actually the beginning of everything. Anadir Adir Govinda. And Sarva Karana Karanam, the cause of all causes. So you can easily remember that. Sarva Karana Karanam and Anadir Adir. Okay, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchit Ananda Vigraha, Anadir Adir Govinda, Sarva Karana Karanam. So easy to remember. This is a very, very good verse, and that you can show us evidence. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur is quoting here. This is directly from the Brahma, from Samhita. So he's saying, taking the support of the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam and other scriptures, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained to Sanatana Goswami that the darshan of Bhagavan achieved through Bhakti Yoga is complete. Okay, the darshan of Bhagavan achieved through Bhakti Yoga because it's complete. The other types of darshan, not by Bhakti Yoga, like what is that? What other process? Like in Gyan, what darshan they will have? darshan of Brahma. That is not complete. That's only one aspect only. It's like they're giving an example of a train. You know, they're like they have this analogy. Like a train is coming at night time. So when train is coming, then in the beginning, like you only see like light, you know, like traveling light, like this. But then when it really gets close, then you can see, oh, it's not just light, oh, it's like a compartment, you know, like that. But the real darshan is when you actually go inside and you will see everything like that. So there is the Brahma darshan by the Jnanis. There is the Paramatma darshan, which is higher than just darshan of Brahma. That is by the what? By whom? By the yogis. And then bhakti, those bhaktas, they get darshan of Bhagavan. So he's saying, Mahaprabhu explained to Sanatana Goswami that the darshan of Bhagavan, which is achieved through this bhakti yoga, this is complete. And actually, it's complete because it includes, you know, it does not like exclude this Paramatma and Brahma. When you know about Bhagavan, then you know this Paramatma is actually a localized expansion of Bhagavan. And then the Brahma is impersonal, like aspect, impersonal manifestation. So, Bhagavan has three categories of forms. Okay, now we're talking about Bhagavan. Forget about Paramatma and Brahma. Okay, now we just focus on Bhagavan. And as he said, when you talk of Bhagavan, really, we should just think of the Swayam Bhagavan Krishna. So when we talk about Bhagavan, he said, he has three categories. First, the Swayam Rup. Swayam Rup. So he said, Swayam Rup meaning his original form. So he said, Swayam Rup, the original form of Sri Krishna. Who is that? Son of Maharaj Nanda. Who dressed as a cowherd boy. He is the enjoyer of pastimes in Vrindavan. Okay? So, is this Krishna with Rukmini and Satyabhama? Is this Swayam Rup? Swayam Rup. Sham. Is that Swayam Rup? No. Why? Why? Because Swayam Rup is the original. And really the original meaning the one in Raj. So, he said, he is independent from all other forms. Okay, so that's one. Then there is the Tadek Atmarup. Tadek Atmarup, he describes as a non-different expansion from the Swayam Rup, but with some differences in bodily features. So, actually, any expansions of Bhagavan are actually not different from him. But then there will be some difference. They're not different, but there will be some difference. So, there will be some difference in what? Some bodily features, like some appearance. Okay, so those expansions, they are called Tadekatmaru. It's actually Tadekatma. Tadekatmaru. Okay, Tadekatmaru. Then the third is Avesh. Avesh meaning individual souls empowered with the potency from the Lord. That's Avesh. Okay. So they're empowered souls. How are they empowered? They're empowered by Shakti of Bhagavan. So they are, what are they? There are the three categories of the forms of Bhagavan. You can remember that? Swayamru, Tadekatmaru, and Avesh. We will explain more. each one out. And later, if you're interested, I have a chart actually. And this chart is made based on Sanatan Shiksha. This whole thing was described in Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu described the whole technology of God, like how he expands and like that. So there's a flow chart that they made based on Mahaprabhu's explanation. It's like from Swayam Rup, there's Swayam Prakash, then the Swayam Prakash have two kinds, Vaibhav and Prabhav, like that. So that's actually Baladev, and then it expands to Dwarka, Mathura, like this, and so on. There's a whole explanation of that. But it shows there's the three categories: Swayam Rup, then Tavikatma Rup, and then Avesh. And if you want, then I can give you a chart. Then you can have some appreciation. So now we just see here, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is discussing this. So now he said, Swayam Rup, Sri Krishna has 6 types of incarnations or avatars. First one is Purusha avatars. There are 3 and they take charge of the material creation. So Purusha avatars, who is that? He said there are 3 Purusha avatars. And mainly they are in charge of the creation, material creation. So by sequence, they appear first as what? Karanta Kasai Vishnu. He is the original Purusha avatar. Then after him, Garbhoda Kasai Vishnu. So that is the Mahavishnu of every universe. And third one is Shilda Kasai Vishnu. Okay. So that is one kind of incarnation of from Swayam Rup. Okay. So that's one, Purusha avatars. Second, Leela avatars. There are many such pastime avatars. So Leela avatars meaning pastime avatars. And prominent amongst these numerous incarnations are Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Nrsimha, Vaman, and Ram. They are the most prominent. But when you say Leela avatars, they're not just limited to 10 or 24 or a certain amount. They're unlimited. So, but yeah, he's mentioning how many? Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Nrsimha, Vaman, and Ram. 6, prominent. Then number 3, Guna avatars. Guna avatars, who can guess? Who are the Guna avatars? Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. Okay. So, they mainly preside over the modes of material nature. Like the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So, who's who? Who's who? Okay. Now, also again, we just take them as terms, like these English terms. When you say goodness, really, it's what does that mean? Mode of goodness, like being good, like that. I'm being good. In a way, like that, but really what it means, because the actual word here is sattva. Sattva. So there's sattva gun, and what other guns are there? Raja gun and tama gun. So how do we translate tama gun? Ignorance, not tama gun, ignorance. But really, it's good to understand, in essence, what this tamagun is. So that means destruction, darkness, like everything bad. But mainly, destruction. Like this. And when we talk about the other one, passion, Raja Gun, they say passion. So what is that? So that means like, that's related to creation. Like this. But when you say sattva, the goodness, they say goodness. Really, what is that? That's mainly like maintenance. Like just existence, like this. But even that we have to understand. These are principles in the material. So this so-called goodness or maintenance, that's actually maintenance in material, in the material. Okay, so these are material modes. So for the functions of these modes, there's a special avatar of that. So in charge. So that is Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu. Then, so how many we have? How many categories so far? 3. 3 categories from the Swayambhu. Purusha avatar, Lila avatars, Guna avatars. Then, 4th, Manvantar avatars. So, he said, directly saying, Manvantar avatars, they're innumerable. Guna avatar, we can count. There's 3 of them. Okay. But, when you say Manvantar, they are innumerable. Because, there's a certain time period you call as Manvantar. It's an era. It's an age. That is the age ruled by a certain Manu. And you know what a Manu is? What is a Manu? It's a certain type of, like a post. A Jiva, they can have that kind of post, like a Manu. And what they do, they're actually the progenitors of the human race. Like this. Like for example, when there's destruction, okay, no more population. Then again, after creation, or there's a need for again repopulation. Then the Manu, they take charge of that. Yeah. So generally, Manus are kings. They're kings. They're like the head of the humans. So each Manu have a lifespan, and their lifespan is actually that certain time period, like this. So he said, in each Manvantar era, one Manvantar avatar appears, and he takes the position of Manu to give laws for human society. To give laws for the human society. Law. And so that's why you say, law, there's all this, like Manu Samhita, like there are all different laws, like how to live. They're like, they call it Dharma Shastras. The 14 Manus who appear in the present Kalpa are, okay, so these are not always the names of the Manus. But they just mentioned that, okay, in this present kalpa, one kalpa is what? What is that? What is a kalpa? A kalpa is a day of Brahma, no? Yeah. One day of Brahma is a kalpa. So in a day of Brahma, that is how many cycles of one cycle is composed of four periods also, no? Satya, what is Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali. Then it goes back to Satya. Okay? So one cycle, 100 of that is one kalpa, a day of Brahma.
1,000.
Huh?
1,000.
I mean, 1,000, sorry, 1,000. So, in 1,000 cycles, there are 14 manus. So that means if you can calculate that, 1,000 divided by 14, you come out with something like 72. Huh? 72. 72?
71.
71. 71 something. No, 71. So, then, he said, so that's why you have 14 manus in a kalpa. So then he said, in this this present kalpa, there's Yagya, Vibhu, Satyasena, Hari, Vaikunta, Ajit, Vaman, Sarvabhauma, Rishava, Vishwakshen, Dharmasetu, Sudama, Yogeshwar, and Brihat Bhanu. That's in this present kalpa. Okay, so yeah, we can appreciate so much how they know this. And what is our evidence? Our evidence is like our scriptures, Bhagavatam, like this. Because you will not find evidence from like any of the science books and all these things. They won't even believe this. And they will think that this is like a fairy tale or something. So now, so that's the fourth one, Manvantar avatars. Okay. Then 5, Yuga avatars. Yuga avatars. So Yuga avatars meaning these are the avatars for each yuga. How many yugas are there? 4 yugas. No. So he said an incarnation appears in each age to establish the religious principle for that yuga. The 4 yugas are Satya, Treta, Dwapar, and Kali. In each of these yugas, Bhagavan, Sri Krishna, correspondingly appears in a white, red, black, and golden. So Shukla, Rakta, Krishna, and Pita form. Okay. Then 6, Shaktyavesh avatar. Shaktyavesh avatar. They are unlimited, occurring when a special potency of Bhagavan enters a jiva. So he said, a special potency of Bhagavan enters a jiva. And then that's how you have a Shaktyavesh avatar. Examples of this are the 4 Kumaras, Narad, Prithu, and Parashuram. So he said, so now Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he said, Krishna is the root of all these avatars. Bhagavan is endowed with 6 complete features. We mentioned this yesterday. What are they? Again? Aishwaryasya Samaga Sabirya Yasha Sasriya Gyan Vairagya Straiva. This verse, no? So, what are they as you understand? Aishwarya meaning? Awesomeness. Okay, that's our way to understand it. Because here you can just, they would translate this as opulence or wealth, but at least we understand it's more than that. It's more than that. It's actually just like, wow, he's so wonderful. He's the biggest and the smallest at the same time. Like this. So, okay, that Aishwarya, what else? Virya. Virya means power, strength. Then Virya, then what's next one? Yash, fame, glory. Then Shri means beauty. Then Gyan, Vairagya, knowledge, renunciation. So that makes 6 features. And okay, he said, so here he said, he is complete, he's endowed with 6 complete features. Beauty, opulence, strength, fame, knowledge, and renunciation. Only Sri Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan because he is the natural and complete manifestation of all these qualities of Bhagavan. No one is equal to or superior to Krishna. Okay, we understand this. Now, the original form of Krishna, Swayam Roop. So, what is that again? Who is the Swayam Roop? Krishna in bride. That's the original form. He is dressed as a cowherd boy. Eternally resides in his abode named Goloka, and is always engaged in playful, sportive pastimes. By Sri Krishna's desire, his Tadekatma. So he's saying here, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's putting like a qualifier. Literally, when you say Tadekatma, it means one with him. Tadekatma. Tada eka atma. Like one with him. So, his Tadekatma manifestations remain engaged in various activities. Krishna isn't brushed. He's there playing like this. But he's the Dekatma. They're engaged in many various activities. And there's unlimited of them. Mahavishnu, the first Purusha avatar, expansion of Sri Krishna, remains residing on the coastal ocean, the Karan Samudra. And his two other Purusha avatar expansions are Garbhodakasaya and Kshirodakasaya Vishnu. Okay, you understand that? And you know what's his activity, no? Like there's the Karanadakasaya Vishnu, he's there on the Karana ocean, and what? He's just lying down there. And manifesting all the different universes, right? And in each universe, then he's the second Purusha avatar is there. He's the Mahavishnu of that particular universe. Then in every atom of the universe, then there's the Kshirodakasaya. So then, okay, so that is the Purusha avatars. Now he said, other avatars such as Ram and Nrsimha are parts of a plenary part of these Purusha avatars. So he said, the other avatars, such as Ram and Nrsimha, are parts of a plenary part of these Purusha avatars. However, Swayam Bhagavan Shri Krishna is the source of all these avatars, including even the Purusha avatars. Now, what does it mean when you say like parts of the plenary part? When you say plenary part, meaning it's like a non-different part, you know. But is it a part of the plenary part? Now, part of the plenary part. Plenary, not planetary. Plenary part. They are parts of a plenary part. Plenary, P-L-E-N-A, P-L-E-N-A-R-Y. Plenary, not planetary. Plenary, complete. Like there's part, but some parts are not complete. But when you say plenary, they're complete. They're like the original, you know. But it said there some of these avatars, they're just parts of the plenary part. But he's just showing the difference, you know. Well, these avatars are part of. They're even just an amsa or a column of Krishna, because Krishna is the original. Now, in some explanations, and I've read directly, I can with full conviction, I would say this is, you can read from Bhagavatam somewhere, because like I didn't know this was discussed, and I cannot mention where exactly there, but it's there directly in purports of even Swami Prabhupada. He's saying that many of these avatars, they are manifestation of, who do you think? Which of the Purusha avatar? Yeah, which Mahavishnu? No, not Karanakasaya. They are already manifestations of what's that? There's Karana, Garbhodakasaya, and Kshirodakasaya Vishnu. He said they are manifestations of Kshirodakasaya Vishnu, not even Garbhodakasaya Vishnu. Yes. Look, when you say avatars, they are like a reflection of a certain. Let's say there is an actual like Vaikuntha planet of Nrsimha, you know, like that. But this specific reflection here, where is he coming from? He's actually not directly from that, because he's eternal. They can say that the one in Vaikuntha, the Narayans there, they have nothing to do with the material world. Narayan has nothing to do with the material world. So the material affairs is only coming from Mahavishnu, from Karanakasaya Vishnu. But Karanakasaya Vishnu, he has also nothing to do, like he doesn't like engage in like this. He's just there yoga nidra, like this. He's only like sleeping, let's say, like spiritual, transcendental sleep. But then there's Garbhodakasaya Vishnu, now who actually rules each universe. But then, for everything that happens in the material world, that is Kirodakasai Vishnu. So like he said, and that's their explanation, that these avatars are actually from Kirodakasai Vishnu. And he said that also Kirodakasai Vishnu has actually a planet in the material world, in Dhruvalok. In Dhruvalok, physically, Kirodakasai Vishnu is there also. Anyway, this is beyond our thing. We accept this as Bhagavatam is telling. Okay, so now, he's saying, Swayam Bhagavan Shri Krishna is the source of all these avatars, including even the Purusha avatars. By his potency of inconceivability, what is another term for that? Achincha Shakti. By his Achincha Shakti, Bhagavan Shri Krishna remains residing above everyone. Yet simultaneously, he is able to descend to this material world in his original form as Sri Vrajendra Nandan, the son of Maharaj Nanda. Okay. Now, that is by his inconceivable potency. Because you may say, look, even this Narayan, they have nothing to do with this material world. But the Swayam Bhagavan Krishna, he can actually come also to the material world. Of course, he is not touched by anything in this material world. But directly, he manifests himself in his original form. So that is only by his inconceivable potency. What the Upanishads call Brahma is the bodily effulgence of Sri Krishna. Paramatma, which is described in the Vedic scriptures as pertaining to the performance of yoga, is only a partial expansion of Krishna. There are unlimited quotes from the scriptures supporting these 2 points. He said unlimited quotes you can see from the scriptures supporting these 2 points. And what is that? What are the 2 points? That is Brahma, what? The effulgence, the personal effulgence of God, Brahma, is just his, what does it say? Is the bodily effulgence of Krishna. This is only the bodily effulgence of Krishna. And Paramatma is the what? Partial manifestation. So this cannot be understood by fallacious scriptural argument and mundane logic. Just as the solar universe is illuminated by the all-pervading light of the sun, the all-powerful, all-spiritual, transcendental Sri Krishna's Son, whose bodily effulgence pervade the entire creation as the formless, featureless, impersonal Brahma, is reflected within the minds of retrospective philosophers who are filled with thoughts of material negation. Understand? There are some, he called it retrospective philosophers, and their thoughts are always filled with material negation, meaning they're completely trying to renounce from this material world. So because of that, then they have that capacity to be able to perceive that one, this impersonal Brahma. On their mind, this he said, Krishna's bodily effulgence that pervades the entire universe as this impersonal Brahma becomes reflected on their mind. So he said, after creating the universe, Krishna's plenary portion, the super soul, again enters within everything. The yogis perceive him in this form. So religious processes that propound the formless and non-transformative nature of Brahma are transformations of the material mode of goodness, the sattva gun. Did you get that? He said the religious processes. There are so many religious processes, Those religious processes that propound, they teach, and they deal with understanding this formless and non-transformative nature. When you say non-transformative, like nirvikar, like it doesn't transform. The non-transformative nature of Brahma. They are all, he said, all these are transformations of the material mode of goodness. So they are actually in the material mode of goodness. The above mentioned so-called learned scholars are bewildered by such worship. Endowed with limited knowledge, they disrespect the transcendental form of Bhagavan, who is full of knowledge, eternity, and bliss. Instead, they take shelter of a formless and featureless conception, and thus they are forever cheated of the wealth of frame. So this is like a misfortune. All these jnanis, they rely so much on their mental capacity. So they have already a preconceived idea. They said, God is spiritual. Anything that has form, like in the material world, you only see everything here has form. So they think anything that has form has to be material. So it's like, there's all this Krishna, people are worshipping Krishna, like that. So, that is material, that has a form. Why? Because spiritual means no form. So that kind of conception is based on their mental, like, speculation, their mental idea, the limit of their capacity to understand. Like this. They cannot reconcile that when you talk about God can also have a form, but it's not material. So sometimes there are verses in the scriptures telling God has no form, which actually means that He has no material form, but He has a form. So then what happens? Because they deny personality of God, and then they reject and even like be against the worship of the personal form of God. Then what happens to them? They become cheated. They won't be able to have that opportunity to have Krishna praying. They are cheated. So they think that by accepting the divine form of Bhagavan, they will be contaminated by the fault of worshipping matter or an ordinary human being. So you understand their concern. A lot of these people, they want they're into like purity, everything pure. Now they would think that you're worshiping, like now we're worshiping deity. He said, look, that is made of marble, that's material. They may have that kind of conception. So then he said, like, worship of deities, this is contaminated by the fault of worshiping matter, like this. So, or worshiping an ordinary human being. So therefore, then they said, like, we should not worship like any of this form. So he said, such impure impressions disturb the supremely pure dharma of the jiva. So this kind of impression is impure. It's actually contaminated by like material, like faults, like this. And they disturb the supremely pure dharma of the jiva, which is Krishna prema. The person in whose heart the glories and sweetness of Krishna has appeared becomes free from the negative idea that Bhagavan is formless. And ultimately, he sees the transcendental kingdom of God. Did you get that? He said, those persons whose heart the glories and sweetness of Krishna has appeared. For someone, his heart already Krishna's glories and sweetness appeared. How? How they appeared? And generally, that's only when you meet a devotee. You hear from them all these sweet pastimes of Krishna, and describing his sweet form like this. And you read from the scriptures like this. So then they're giving you all these impressions, like the pure, the original pure impressions, that Bhagavan is a person. He is very sweet. So he said, when heart is filled with the glories and sweetness of Krishna, then he becomes free from this negative idea. And they cannot accept that. Oh, Bhagavan is formless. They cannot accept that. And ultimately, then he will see the kingdom of God, meaning the abode of Krishna, Vrindavan. Only greatly fortunate souls have such a darshan. Unfortunate persons, bewildered by the mirage of mundane material knowledge, are unable to attain realization of the transcendental kingdom. Okay, so that's understandable. Those unfortunate people who have mundane material knowledge, they will not have this darshan. Well, why? Because, remember that? The Vidvat and Avidvat Praditi? They have Avidvat Praditi. Sri Krishna is the Lord of Golok, the topmost abode, since time without beginning. In Golok, there is complete absence of mundane time, and everything exists there in the unlimited, transcendental, and eternal present tense. Okay, so even these are just words for us. Like we say like this, but do we understand this? No. He said that in Golok, the topmost abode, it has no beginning. So everything there is in the present tense. Like right now, as soon as I said something, that's already in the past. You know, there's always this past, present, future. Like in this. So when we say like, there's no time there, really, like, how is that? Our mind cannot figure that out. I know. Despite being the Lord of Golok and completely independent in his desires, still by his Achintya Shakti, he appears upon the earth along with his eternal abode, Braj, which is situated within the inner recesses of that whole spiritual world of Golok. Thus, despite appearing here in the material world, he also remains performing pastimes in his spiritual abode, which is always pure and full of variety. Okay, so that's what's happening. He's just telling us like this. He appearing here, and if you think about it, that time of his appearance here, even in considering the time of Mahavishnu, that's really like nothing. That's like a split second. Because when we say, from the breathing of Mahavishnu, when he inhales, that's already like annihilation. And when he exhales, then it's like, oh, creation. And that's like a shortcut. You know, like right now we inhale. That's already like a few seconds. Imagine that if you like to zoom into the time. So now when you exhale, then all these universes, and Lord Brahma, like that, and all the different universes manifested, and all this like, oh, yugas. Just in the day of Brahma, that's already 1,000 cycles. Like now, even 100 years, like already like so long. Someone imprisoned for 3 months. You know, that's already like so long. Like imagine that if you're put on a prison, like one day maybe like too long for you because like in a strange, you know. And imagine like let's say 1 week, that's already too long. 3 months, and some people they're in prison for like 20 years or like that, and for them that's already too long. But like really, this material is like a prison, you know. And we actually think like, oh, we want to live here, but even 100 years, that is compared to 1 day of Brahma. That's nothing. So in the time of Mahavishnu, that's like a split second. Like that. So when we say Krishna, he is in his eternal abode. He's doing his pastimes. But time to time, he come in here, you know, and he's doing. But at the same time, he's also there performing. Our mind may not fully understand, but this is happening. He's saying this. And this can be done by his Achintya Shakti. He remains immune to the effects of mundane time, a factor of this material universe. Okay, so when we talk about the material universe, then really time is there. So when Bhagavan comes here, he's immune from this. He's immune. Krishna's pastimes can be seen when the soul reaches the stage of Vishuddha Samadhi, meaning completely transcendental, like pure trance. That is. We cannot see the transcendental form or pastimes of Bhagavan with mundane eyes of the flesh. Krishna does sometimes manifest himself to mundane vision by the influence of his Achintya Shakti. However, the foolish and impious persons cannot recognize him. Did you get that? Our material eyes cannot see Krishna. But sometimes these material eyes can see his form also. And that is only by his Achintya Shakti. However, the foolish and impious people, they cannot recognize him. Meaning, they can even see with his material eyes. He will appear, he can appear to you. And that is by his Achintya Shakti. Like this. But, he said, the foolish people, they cannot recognize him. The pastimes of Krishna are eternal, and they always remain untouched by mundane space and time. Only the devotional eyes of the soul, of the Atma, can see them. See what? The pastimes of Krishna. So he said, only the soul with their devotional eyes, they can see these pastimes. And only a mind absorbed in devotional sentiments can meditate upon them. So, you take that? You understand that? Only a mind absorbed in devotional sentiments can meditate upon them. So, unless our mind is absorbed in devotional sentiments, you cannot meditate. You may try now, like you meditate on pastime. You may hear pastime like that, but you cannot try like really to focus and remember and enter into this pastime. Why? Because our mind, for those whose minds are, like occupied by material desires, they're not possible. Even though one may cultivate the worship of the Supreme Truth, even though one may cultivate the worship of the Supreme Truth, as long as the false ego remains. So everybody knows false ego, no? What's the false ego? Meaning false identity of yourself. Generally, when you say false ego, generally that means this conception of who you are really not. Like I am the enjoyer. And generally that is what even you say I am not the body, but still the conception that I am the enjoyer. There's still so much false ego still with you, like that. So of course the most basic or the most gross level of this is that I am the body. I am the body. But it goes subtle. Is this false ego very easy to transform? Very tricky, like that. You may say we always hear this false ego is not like a glass that you can shatter with a hammer, like this. It's more like a clay. You hit with a hammer, then it changes shape, like that. It doesn't break. So before you were maybe materialist, and then you have all this desire, I want to be rich, and I'll be a famous rock star, or like this. Then now you become a devotee, then now you people, I want to be the best devotee, like that. It just transforms also. I want to be the famous devotee, like this. So he said, as long as the false ego is there, even if you're cultivating worship of Bhagavan, then he said this tattva will be very far away. This tattva of Krishna will still remain far away. He said, only by considering oneself to be more insignificant than a blade of grass, and in this way you will have this, hopelessness, that really only Krishna is my hope, like that. So, unless you have that, then he said, can be, it's possible that the most fortunate person can have direct vision of Sri Krishna. And by his mercy attain the unlimited happiness of loving sentiments for him. And that's why you see Mahaprabhu's prayer. No? He said, Trinadapi Sunichena Karurapi Seshana. And you can see also in Navadvip Mahatmya, Lord Nityananda himself telling. Because in Navadvip Mahatmya at the end, Lord Nityananda is telling about who can enter Navadvip. Because physically you can go Navadvip. Like now, Navadvip Parikrama, yesterday it began, Navadvip Parikrama. You can go there. But he said, someone can be there but not in Navadvip. And that is now like related to here. As long the false ego is there, then this Krishna's pastimes and understanding Krishna remains very far. So like you can actually come to the place. You can, like now we are in Vrindavan, but we can remain far away. And we hear the glories of Navadvip, more merciful than Vrindavan also, not considering offenses. Like this, not considering offenses. And with that means you progress very easily. And that is why Jiva Goswami, he asked the question. He said like, okay, Navadvip doesn't consider offenses like this. He said, but how can we be assured? Jiva Goswami is saying, how can we be assured, the devotees are assured, that we don't be, I still see many offensive people and they're not progressing. They're here in Vrindavan. So how we can be assured that we don't become like them? You follow me? Because that means you go to Vrindavan, take shelter, you go to Navadvip, take shelter of Navadvip. Then even though you're committing offenses, you will progress very nicely still in bhakti. Like that. No. But then he's saying, I see so many like atheists, materialists, they're in Navadvip and they remain offensive and they're not progressing. Like that. So how we can be assured that we will not be like them? So then Lord Nityananda, then he explained like this, that look, you can be in Navadvip physically, but really you're not Navadvip. So these people that you're saying they're Navadvip, they're not really Navadvip. Maya has covered Navadvip and they're outside. Like that. And so then Lord Nityananda explained, what does it mean to be in Navadvip? He said only those who are associating with an actual, Navadvip Basi. He said those who have actual relation with Mahaprabhu, they can enter Navadvip. They are really in Navadvip. That means, those who have relationship with Mahaprabhu. He's saying, these people that you see, and they remain offensive, they're not progressing, they have no relationship with Mahaprabhu. Like this. Okay, so then the next question then to ask is, how do we know that someone has a relationship with Mahaprabhu? Because that means then you'll be in Navadvip, right? Then Lord Nityananda, then he said, when you see these 4 symptoms, then you can see he has a relationship with Mahaprabhu and he's in Navadvip. You know? What are they? Trinadapi Sunichena, Taruapi Seshana, Amanina, Manadena. And they're always just chanting Harina. Like this. So Trinadapi Sunichena is the same what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying. Like free from the false ego. That, I am nothing. Like I'm lesser value than a straw in the street. The straw in the street, like really, who thinks it's valuable? Even the straw in the streets may even have some value. When like you step on a straw, it will still like come up like that. So Mahaprabhu is saying like, I'm lower than that. Like this. Then, what? Trinadapi Sunichena, Taruapi Seshana. More tolerant than a tree. So we know tree very tolerant. Another aspect of that tolerance also is that the tree are very compassionate. Even if you're coming with the intention to kill the tree will still remain to give you shade, to offer everything to you. Like that. We'll give you shade, we'll give you fruits, like this. Like that. So then, Amanena, Manadena. Amanena, no desire for being respected. And Manadena, always giving respect. So, we finish here. He said, by great good fortune upon the awakening of faith, freedom from the clutches of the mundane false ego and remains disentangled from those things which cause offense to the holy name. You understand? This is in relation to those people who try to be, like this, Trinata Pisunichina, and only feeling hopeless with hopelessness, they get the mercy of Krishna. And said, by good fortune, by great good fortune, when that faith is awakened, he gains the freedom from the clutches of the false ego. And he remains disentangled from those things that causes offense to the holy name. So, high birth, social position, mundane education, beauty, strength, knowledge of material sciences, elevated posts, wealth, and kingdoms. Meaning all these things, they cause one to be proud, right? But for him, they have no value. That they are of no assistance in the bhajan of Krishna. They cannot help for bhajan of Krishna. Like this. So pride arising from high birth, physical beauty, and wealth have been proven to be the three main obstacles in bhakti. So it's kind of like that. What is that again? Pride from high birth. What else? Physical beauty and wealth. There's another one. What do you think? Aside from wealth already there. Wealth, high birth, and physical beauty. Another one is the education, or like your intelligence. If someone like, oh, I'm so intelligent, and also you're proud. So with this, they become obstacles to bhakti. So we can stop here now. It's time. We continue tomorrow more. Ki Jai Srila Gurudev, Ki Jai Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Ki Jai Sri Chaitanya Sri Samrita